Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So here we are, kicking off the final topic in the quest system, which is stipulations?
Yeah, it's just kind of a random scattering of a whole bunch of little topics, really.
Okay.
It's a section in my notes that I titled Stipulations. It's stuff that I thought would be important to keep in mind for generating any kind of a quest system based off of experience that I have with other quest systems from a variety of other games. These do kind of go everywhere.
Okay, fair enough.
There's no really hardcore focused theme for any of them, and I hope that those who are sitting in on this conversation may have some stipulations of their own they'd like to throw out there, and you can do that at any time, and I'll just see if I can work them in. The first one, and anybody who's played EVE is going to kind of smirk at this one, it needs to be very clear from the start when you can accept a quest. No, speak your mind instead of just groaning.
I was going to actually bring this up at some point during stipulations, but you kind of already touched on it on the first bullet point. I do kind of like some bit of ambiguity in quests to leave it to the, because on not on the really boring mundane quests, I mean, but on maybe even the story quests or the quests where we might actually spend an hour or two building this quest, coming up with ways that the player can do things differently that aren't clear. You know what I mean? Like, for example, they can make up their own mind as to, okay, I wonder if I can complete this quest in this way, or I wonder if I can complete this quest in that way. I mean, take the police station, for example, in Deus Ex, where you could, there's a bunch of ways to get into it that are kind of made clear, but you could also, if you really wanted to, and nobody's told you to do this, in fact, you get told explicitly not to do this, but you can take out your gun and shoot everybody in the police station to get down to where you need to go. I kind of like ambiguity in the quest and how you can.
But was that actually a quest
thing, though?
That was the main quest.
Yeah, that's not accepting a quest. That's not what I'm talking about at all.
And that's mostly down to the writing and the design.
Well, yeah. I'm imagining what you're getting at is the envelopes, the messages that you miss.
That's one thing.
Because you're always going on about it.
Well, no, it's other things too. Especially if we're just talking about like EVE Online, you'll go to talk to an NPC, and all you want to do is talk to this NPC. But while they're talking to you, they offer you a quest, and because that window has now been opened, you have to accept or decline it at this point. And all you wanted, it's like you walked up just to see if they wanted a cup of coffee. You're just like, hey, what's the news? They're like, I have a job for you. I need you to take it right now or turn it down, and I'm going to diminish your reputation from it. And I never much cared for that, because ideally, you want that sort of thing to appear when you have asked for work. And I think maybe it's one of those areas where as hardcore as EVE is, and I do appreciate how hardcore it is sometimes, I think maybe they took the hardcore thing one step too far. Because I've had numerous occasions where here's another example. I'll do a quest for somebody, and I'll go to turn that quest in, and just by hitting the turn in quest button to complete the quest,
it auto shows you the next one.
Auto shows me the next quest, and if I didn't want to do any more quests, I've now got to either decline that, which means I can't decline another quest from them for 4 more hours or something without getting a drop in reputation.
Or if you just close your dialog box, you're going to get a notification a few days later saying
forget you.
Yeah,
it would be.
I was going to say you can. Well, they give you some leeway. You can hit delay, and
yes.
It gives you, and it'll put it off without causing.
But to me, that seems like they just kind of wedged that in there because they know it was a fundamental problem with how they're presenting quests to you in the first place, and I'd like to avoid that problem.
Mm.
No, I agree, but I also don't want to necessarily say that you can't have random quests pop up during dialogue, but perhaps in those cases declining that quest doesn't diminish your reputation.
I'm fine with them being kind of a funny little treat that appears every so often, but to be the hard and fast norm of the quest system, which is kind of, again, what happens in EVE, that irritates me so bad that I'm actually kind of bitter about it.
To be honest, I personally don't think declining a quest should ever cost you reputation, per se. But maybe if you're in a situation where you're locked in a basement with Mr. Big and he's making you an offer you literally can't refuse, that's a special case.
Yeah, that's maybe not just
yeah, I do
reputation's getting
entirely
affected.
agree with the fact that it comes down to a more general point, which is that interface, clicking on the wrong part of the interface, above and beyond a certain point, is just punishing people for no good reason.
Right. I see what you're saying. I mean, I'm okay in a sense with folks losing a bit of. It could be reputation with a certain faction. It could be any number of things. I'm fine with there being some sort of ramification to someone offering you work and you turning it down, and that having some sort of effect on how they view you. I'm okay with that. Especially, I mean, if you think about it, like you walk up to somebody, maybe at a staffing company or at a job place, and you say, "Hey, I'm looking for work," and they say, "Great, I need you to do this," and you're like, "Oh no, I don't want to do that." That's going to irritate whoever's across the counter because, like, you asked if I had work and I have work.
Yeah.
Well, then it depends on who initiates the question.
Exactly.
If the NPC initiates the question, then that shouldn't impact your reputation.
Sure, which is what I'm trying to avoid as often as possible. I don't want that to become the standard, for you to just think that all you're doing is engaging in conversation, and suddenly you're getting inundated with a quest request that you didn't ask for. Or you go to turn in a quest, and suddenly, instead of just saying, all right, thanks for your business and wrapping up, they're already throwing out the next quest, which is going to have an effect to whether or not you choose to do it.
What about this? What about instead of having them randomly pop and ask you quest stuff, what if during the dialogue they say something like, "Oh, this guy's really pissing me off. I wish he was dead." And then a question, one of your dialogue options pops up and says, inquire about possibility of you being the person.
The Oblivion style approach.
Well, and indeed, all the Baldur. I think I'm.
Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what you meant? Mm-hmm. I'll shut up. I suddenly realised that's what.
No. Oblivion was its own game. That's the Bethesda game. Morrowind series, Elder Scrolls, all that.
Yeah,
The stuff
for some reason, I suddenly, when you said that, I thought they were the people who made Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights and the other series on that.
Well, Chris,
because
I'm sorry.
It's the more sort of old-fashioned way of presenting good chat trees, really. As long that's what it comes down to, making sure that it's put together in a way that makes sense.
I was going to say, Chris, you've been awfully quiet. What are your thoughts? You've been playing Eve a little lately, haven't you?
A little bit. It is annoying. I've not made it through the tutorial yet because I had about 10, 15 minutes on it.
Okay.
But there is a similar thing in WoW with the follow-on. It's like two-part quests. We do the first part, and then you'll get a pop-up box, a pop-up dialogue saying you've done this quest, and it offers you to, accept the next quest. Mm-hmm. There is one button, and that button is accept.
Right.
And that's, I think that's what you're trying to avoid, more or less.
After a way,
you can't turn it down.
The reason that WoW doesn't hold up to the concern on my end is that in WoW you can accept a quest and decline it over and over and over and over and over again, and it doesn't mean anything. You could literally stand there in front of a quest giver and say, "I'll do this quest." "No, I won't." "I'll do this quest." "No, I won't." And it means nothing. In the real world, that's going to make someone eventually punch you. And I like the idea that you could get someone kind of irritated by saying you're going to do stuff and then either not doing it or changing your mind later. Because I agree. Yeah. And it was such a nice paradigm inside of Eve. I was really pleased when I saw it in there. It made everything feel like it meant a whole lot more. But at the same time,
take away your choice. Then you can't
the fact
choose
that they keep dumping quests on you when you're not expecting them does make things a little bit irritating.
I mean, if you're walking down the road and you see someone, dying by the side of the road, and you go up to them and say, "Is there anything I can do to help?" And they go, "Yes, tell my wife I said hello," or whatever, and you just go, "Oh no, can't be bothered." Then you shouldn't. In some cases, you shouldn't have a choice. It should be implied. The quest should be imposed upon you.
He's now the quest writer for our MMO.
You sort of move the choice and disguise it. The choice there is crossing the road to help or not.
To really to use Chris's example and knock it home here. Let's say that you came across this guy laying on the road and he said, say hello to my wife, and you say okay, and you go tell his wife hello, and you come back and you say, okay, I've completed that. I told your wife hello, and he says, thank you very much. Could you go to the store and grab me some shoes? And you're like, I'm out of here, and now you're going to get penalized because you didn't want to go and get him some shoes, but you told him you'd go tell his wife hi, and you did. But then he just went on and automatically told you what he wanted next, and it's like, that's
how slow is this guy dying?
It's a hard,
very slowly.
It's a hard scenario.
walked to town, found his wife, told her this, but yeah,
extremely Shakespearean.
To me, the cutoff is when you. Once you've accepted a quest, I have absolutely no problem, and I think you absolutely should lose reputation if you then just forget about it, or whether it's timed or not. It's you can't just ditch a quest and expect to get away with it when you said you're going to do it. But I think any sort of punishment for just flat out declining a quest, or you could limit it to sort of initiating quest chains. In Chris's example, that first, whether you cross the road or not, is the point at which you either accept or basically are accepting or declining the interaction. And if you don't decide to get involved, then you just don't get involved. But if you do decide to get involved and then turn around and walk away, that's when it should affect you.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Complete silence there.
Well, I still see. I like the running into a person dying on the road. I mean, that sounds like a. I really like that.
Very nice, Nelson.
Okay. Keep going. You like that, so you run into him. And you're like,
I like the concept of running into somebody who really needs help, who's in a dire situation that makes you actually feel like, I actually really want to help this guy. And you're right, going up to that guy and saying, hey, do you need any help? And he says, oh, tell my wife, and kids, and bring them, this money that I have or something. And then, you say no. That does really feel like a dick move where you should possibly get penalized for it. But if it ever extends to anything beyond that, if he does end up asking you for shoes or something afterwards, and then you say, okay, I no longer feel sorry for this guy because he could have crawled to his wife by the time.
He's obviously not dying.
Exactly.
I'm done with this guy. Then you shouldn't get penalized for adding additional stuff, or when they add additional stuff, you shouldn't get penalized for saying, no, I'm out of here.
And I
think
that's the big thing that Zach's getting at. Like when he turns a quest in Eve, and then the NPC automatically says, here's the next thing. And Zach closes the dialogue and is done playing for the night, and then gets an email from the dude a few days later saying, well, you really suck. You didn't want to take my work? Fine. I don't have any work for you no more.
So where do we draw the line with the initial getting, though? I mean, should we just say it's your fault for asking the dying guy on the side of the road if he needs help?
I would like situations like that to be the exception and not the rule.
But they're more engaging, though. Those kinds of quests are more engaging, in my opinion.
Sure.
I think if all the quests are like that, then they're not engaging.
Yeah, well, see, and that's the thing, though, Nelson. It's funny because you are the one. Weren't you the one who voiced the opinion? You were kind of vehement about it, about trying to find a way to get away from the idea of the single-player experience translating into an MMO. Because, I mean, you're going to have every MMO player out there all walking past this same point on the street, seeing the same guy, and he wants every one of them, like every person who comes by, to take this little bag of money to his kids over and over.
So how does the wife respond when you come to the door? I know already.
There's a queue outside. There's all these people standing there with money bags going like...
No.
To my mind...
It's a metaphor anyway. So.
Yeah, I know.
It's also... But in this case, in those sorts of cases, it's probably... Because in the more generic than getting tied up in the examples, the joys of passing someone dying by the side of the road,
but it's so much fun to talk about.
This is essentially a question of once you've accepted the first quest, do you get penalised for not carrying on the quest chain?
Well, no.
Yeah, let me finish. And I think in this case, those sorts of cases, you can kind of deal with it more with withdrawing the carrot instead of using the stick. You know, in a way, because you've got two different negative outcomes that you can consider. One of which is a loss of some reputation in some aspect. The other one is just that they don't get the payoff at the end of it. You know, when you go back and he says, "Oh, by the way, I could do with 20 Marlboro from down the shop. Could you go and get them?" And you just say, "Oh no, you're having a laugh now," and walk away. You don't necessarily get penalised directly, but if you go to the shop for him to get them, you meet the secret. You know, the guy who runs the shop turns out to be a fixer for some criminal organisation. You know, you get access to better stuff.
Or you go back and he says, I'm actually the King of Sweden, and here's all this money that you deserve for being such a kind person.
Here's another very simple idea just to toss in real quick. It's something that I do like in Eve, and that is when you go up to an agent and they say, you know, I've got this quest for you, and if you take it, I do love if you get this done within 3 or 4 hours, or if you get it done within 4 hours, you get, you know, an extra 100,000 ISKs. I think that's very cool. That could be one way of penalizing somebody who goes up and says, "Do you have work?" And they say, "Yeah, if you go and you retrieve the following item for me from such and such, I will give you this. And if you do this within the next 2 hours, I'll give you this bonus." And you're like, never mind. But then you turn back around and go back to him again and revisit that same quest. He doesn't have the bonus part in there anymore.
Right. I know that you've already layered like 2 additional discussions on this since that instance where Zach pointed out that I might be contradicting myself, but I'm not, because I would say that quest where you see the guy dying on the road, that's something that once you accept it, nobody else can, and then once you complete it, the guy dies and his corpse eventually disappears.
For everybody in the whole game.
No, it happens randomly. It's one of those random things.
Poor guy.
Everybody's standing around waiting in that one spot for that poor bastard to respawn again because
it happens in different cases. It's an example of a thing that there might be one of these quests available every 5 days. Every 5 days, one person is on the side of the road dying, and the first person to go accept that quest is able to. Come on,
I'm sorry, it's just funny.
It's great. The further you go, the more entertaining it's getting. It's like, hey, what day is this? Tuesday. How do you know? Well, there's some bloke dying on the side of the road over there.
Well, this brings me back to a stipulation that I have.
Okay.
So,
as long as it's tied directly into this.
That is never going to happen. The only time that you find a bloke dying by the side of the road is when an NPC age ticks over to make him old enough to have a coronary and collapse by the side of the road. I don't. Yeah, I know.
Do you know how complicated that system would have to be?
Okay, hang on, because we are getting off track now.
We are.
Well, no, it's a stipulation.
No. Stipulations are going to run for multiple videos.
Yeah,
right now, we're going to
have to wrap this one up because it's already getting to be kind of long.
Yeah, and this particular topic was just, again, the bullet point reading, very clear when you accept a quest.
Yeah, when you can and can't do it, just so that we don't end up with that kind of confusion and people getting penalized when they weren't even really looking for quests at the moment. I think what it boils down to is if we wanted to have these sort of random encounters where you can get a quest, that's fine. I think I would probably remove the ability for significant faction sways or reputation sways to have anything to do with it, whether you took those.
Possibly positive ones, but I would say no to negative ones.
No, if you're not going to do one, don't do the other. As far as I'm concerned.
No. If you accept it and then fail miserably, then you could get a negative. But I'm talking about if you just decline it outright.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Sure, yeah, I can go with that. I can go with that. As for being a better person for helping the poor dude on the side of the road, we haven't talked much about adding an alignment system into our character setup, but I don't know about all that.
I kind of dislike alignment systems.
Well, let's all right. So with that, we don't. Yeah. Steer away again. Let's go ahead and wrap this video up, and we'll come back with stipulations in the next video. Thanks a lot, everyone.